Hey everyone, I just typed in final countdown because I realized this is going to be the last video I'm making with this software, possibly the last ever. So in my mind I've got and look, I told you yesterday that I've got 4 days to do it, so that means I've got 3 days to do this video. That's 3 days because today is another day, and it's going to be on easily confused words and striking the right tone. Come on, you know you want to do it with me. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to look at these easily confused words by classifying them together based on the type of mistake, and you'll see what I mean. So the first group we're going to look at, group one, are on similar verbs and nouns. So either they are pronounced the same or very similarly, but they have different spelling. So the first lot that we have would be writing the noun with a C, the verb with an S, and we would pronounce them differently. So you'd have advice. I took the doctor's advice and walked more. And advise with an S, the doctor advised me to walk more. Then we have device with a C as a noun. That's a great device. And devise with an S as a verb. We need to devise a better plan. As you can see, there's a difference in pronunciation. And look, this one is particular to British and Australian English, but not so the American, only because there is no change in the pronunciation, but it's practice with a C for a noun. Practice makes perfect, and practice with an S as a verb. If you practice, you'll be perfect. And the last example that we're going to look at, where we have similar sort of nouns and verbs in terms of their pronunciation, is affect the noun with an E. Most medications have unwanted effects, and affect the verb with an A. I was affected by the medication. Now, with group two, the confusion is due to similar words, as in the pronunciation is either the same or similar, but they are different parts of speech. And remember, parts of speech we looked at like verbs, nouns, adjectives, adverbs. We also looked at conjunctions and prepositions and so on. So look, the first group, and we're going to go alphabetically, you've got accept the verb. So you need to accept the job by Friday this week. And you've got accept as in a preposition. We're open every day except Sundays. That's Sundays, yeah. You've got later, which is an adverb. So they arrived later than everyone else. And latter, which would be the adjective. Oh no, I'm referring to the latter of the two presidents, the orange one. We've got lose the verb. Children normally don't like to lose. And we've got loose the adjective. You should wear loose clothes for yoga. We've got personal as an adjective. We need to be careful with personal information, or my favorite, whenever you don't get a job where someone says to you it's not personal, you think, yeah, but they said no to me. Anyway, that's beside the point. And there's the other one is personnel as a noun. We value our personnel in this company. Again, that's if you get to be part of that personnel in that company. And guys, by personnel, what we're saying there is staff. We also have principal, the adjective with an A. So that is the principal reason you did not get the job, for example. Or principle, the noun, it is important for you to live by your principles, your values. And remember, principle as an adjective means main reason. Then you've got to, the preposition plus, which would be I must go to work if I get a job. This is all kind of cryptic. And then to the adverb, which would be I'm too tired to go out. Then we've got than, which is a conjunction. Remember, it joins two things. So he is taller than me, which is not very difficult. Then we've got then, the adverb. We are going to the movies. Then we're going for dinner. The last one we're going to look at is not the last alphabetically, but I've left it till the end because it will have the most effect, so to speak. It will show that you're a true grammarian, you're a master. Yeah. And that's the difference between fewer, which we would use. Remember, it's a determiner, but we use it with countable nouns such as people or services or chairs, things that we can count, and less, which we would use with an uncountable noun such as time and money. So you would say there are fewer people than usual, and people seem to have so much less time these days. And the great thing about this is that you'll see people say things like, "Oh, there are less people this time," or "there are less chairs," and you all you need to say there is, "Oh, you mean fewer?" Guys, group three is probably a very common area of mistakes, and it basically highlights the difference between contractions. That's where we remove or omit something and we use an apostrophe, and possessive adjective. So we're going to begin with it's, the possessive adjective or determiner, and it's the contraction, which is a contraction of it is. Yeah. So the first one would be, is that its cover? And it's lovely to meet you. Guys, the next one would be, oh, I need to console you. I need to say there, there, there. You've got there, the possessive adjective slash determiner. You've got there, the demonstrative, which shows you where something is. And you've got there, the contraction of they are. So we've got, I worked with their son. I lived there for many years. And they're really friendly. You'd like them. Then we have whose, as in the contraction of who is, which was featured in two 80s songs, but I'll go with the one that I think is better of who's that girl? And whose meaning the possessive. And I'll give you an example. That's the boy whose mother went to space with Jeff Bezos. And no, we don't mean Katy Perry. But guys, here, whose mother means the boy's mother. And just as a side note, to defend those ladies, they have got every right to get offended that people did not take kindly to their space exploration of 11 minutes. That would have probably released as much carbon dioxide as a third world country in 1 month. And, who says it's some gargantuan display of wealth for Juicy Lips, fiance of Jeff Bezos? I mean, honestly, stop the hate, people. Stop the hating haters. That's like almost hating Marie Antoinette for having all that cake. Glad I got that off my chest. I clearly needed to. The last one from this group is the difference between you're, the possessive adjective determiner, and you're, the contraction of you are. So that's your opinion, man, or you're great to do that. Thank you. Look, one thing that's not in there because their spelling is different and the pronunciation is different, but is a difference between we're, the contraction of we are, were, the past of are, and where, as in where is everybody. But I want to bring that in because we're going to do a spelling thing on it that's really fun. Guys, I'm slipping this one in. It's not necessarily part of a group, but I think it's an important one. Is it? And they're both verbs. It's lay down and lie down. Yeah, and I think there's use for it. So, guys, remember, lay down would be when you put something. You I guess put it flat somewhere on a surface. So, lay down your bag or lay down your weapons, for example, would be a good example. And lie down, my favorite activity, where you just recline, recline, recline. And at the end of all of this, I'm going to just lay down my tools, as in my internet tools, and I'm just going to lie down. All right. See you for the next part, which is on striking the right tone. Strike a tone. Tone or register comes down to the degree of formality when communicating. There are certain conventions that everyone tends to agree on, such as written language tends to be more formal than spoken. Digital written communication, especially texting, is less formal than printed or paper-based communication. And register or tone depends on a few things. It depends on your audience. Do you know them or not? The purpose, is it to inform, is it to entertain, or is it to persuade, or is it all three, like my videos. Only kidding. Is the topic, is it everyday conversation? Is it academic? The channel that you're using, is it face to face? Is it written? And is it, for example, like texting? And the expectations that you normally set up with the person receiving it. So whether it's formal or informal, there are certain things that we expect to be formal. You're writing someone for the first time, you're writing someone that you don't know, and because of all those things, so you'd be a bit more formal. So look, what are some formal language conventions? The first one would be you would use full sentences or questions. You know, one example would be, how are you feeling? Technically, would be a formal language convention, as opposed to what a friend of mine does when she texts, which is, how you? Yeah, not even how is you, how are you, not even how you, yeah. And then use of the full spelling of words. So, you know, things like if you were to say, what are you doing? You'd spell everything correctly and you wouldn't use, what are you doing? What you doing? What doing? Another one would be that you would avoid slang terms like gonna and wanna. Do you wanna? You would be mindful, I guess, of errors with contractions, like, you know, the have of should have, um, instead of, oh, you should have, it's not should of, yeah? And look, in the case of modals, and remember by modals, I think we look to them as can and must and so on, but you'd also include could, should, would. It's best to use full form, like you could have, should have, would have, and must have. I mean, must have. Look, one last thing I suppose that would be part of a formal language convention would be avoid using abbreviations like LMK, for the reasons that not everyone knows what they mean. Their meaning changes over time. But again, remember, with tone, strike a tone, you always have to mirror what the person that you're communicating with is doing. So in some cases, of course, you're going to be informal. And if you wrote a really formal text to your friend, something like, you shall be informed of my estimated time of arrival in due course, they'll think you're drunk or something better. And you know what I mean by something better. Just a final note on register and tone, strike a tone. If you're unsure, I mean, in the sense, you know, when you're writing something, just do the path of the Buddha. Just go the middle path. Yeah. And guys, look, I've done a whole series on plain English, highly entertaining, highly informative. It gives you a bit more information about certain things to avoid, because ultimately, and above all else, you want to make your communication clear. Hi guys, well, we've reached the knowledge check, and what you have in these next two slides are just word choice. You've got some gaps in the sentences and you have to choose between the following pairs. The first one is a choice between advice and advise. Sentence A says, what would you? Sentence B says, thanks for your grades. Sentence 2, we've got the difference between effects and effects. It says, sentence A says, the of a breakup can be long lasting. And sentence B says, a breakup can you for a long time. And sentence 3, the choice is between less and fewer. You have time to spend with them. And sentence B says, you have opportunities as you get older. Now, everyone, the reason why I'm reading them and unfortunately making the sound is that in case someone has some visual impairment, they can at least do this as well. Guys, have a look at it, complete it. You've got the answers in the, not the next slide because there's more sentence, the one after. Okay, guys, you know the drill. Sentence 4 is a choice between your and your. Sentence A says, I know, always trying hard to be the best. And sentence B says, you want friends and family to be happy. And the last one, guys, of this type of exercise is a choice between 3. It's there, there. The different spelling. Sentence A says, you are always for me. Thank you. Sentence B says, it seems you were good friend. And sentence C says, am I right in saying usually very supportive? Now, when you're ready, look at the next two slides because they will have the answers. Hope you did well. So guys, don't have to say much here. I've underlined the correct response and I've bolded it. Okay, so I hope you did well. Take your time. Again, guys, you know what to do. Look, if I could make this interactive, I'll leave it up to you to progress to the next slides, but I can't for several reasons. So look, just pause it. Guys, here, this is slightly different. This is just an exercise on tone and maintaining formal writing conventions. So you've got 7 sentences there. Which ones do you think maintain that conventions that we looked at? And remember, this could be anything, could be an email, whatever, but there are still some conventions, okay? And again, the same thing, pause it. And here they are. Guys, there's 3 of them. Remember, we're using full forms. We're avoiding abbreviations. We're writing full sentences. I hope you did well. Guys, the next task is for me quite fun, so I hope you enjoy it. It's just your good old-fashioned spelling test. Good luck. Guys, this is the fun part. Well, at least for me. I'm going to spell 5 sentences out for you to practice what we've learned. I'll say them normally, then I'll say them slowly, and then you can pause after each sentence if you want and just hear it back. I used to do this with my class as well because I taught English as a second language. So are we ready? Sentence number 1 says, it's its own worst enemy. It's its own worst enemy. You can pause. Sentence 2. You just need a couple of principles to live by. You just need a couple of principles to live by. Again, you can pause. Sentence 3. They're over there by their car. They're over there by their car. Sentence 4. We're where we said we were. Again, we're where we said we were. And the last one, which is a bit whimsical and romantic. You're reflecting on your days of yore. You're reflecting on your days of yore. And here they are, guys. Yeah. In the last sentence, remember, days of yore is a romantic way of saying your past. I hope you enjoyed that. Guys, I've done it. I'm amazed. I've made an 18-minute video in 3 days, which basically means I can get to that thing where I can create content quite quickly, because that's what the internet's all about. And basically, create my own channel. Ideally, I would make half an hour in a week, which looks like I could get there. Now, why do I want to be a content creator? Guys, it's a no-brainer. And I read this article once about how the new generation would rather be, like streamers and so on, as opposed to having a job like your traditional job. So they would rather make millions of dollars in 5 years' time being an influencer or whatever, rather than working as a nurse. So for me, look, I want to keep making these things. Hopefully there's a bit of value to them. I want to create a whole series of videos, maybe with Bob, on teaching English. I could use Bob to teach the conditional. For example, if Bob gets cold, I'll cover him. If Bob were a cat, he wouldn't need to go for a walk. And if I hadn't met Bob, there wouldn't be 7,000 photo opportunities in one day. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Toodaloo.